everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Spiritual Handyman. I am Jason Antelek, your host, and we are putting spiritual tools into the hands of people that need them. You can catch our new episodes on Thursdays through Spotify, on YouTube, through Instagram, Facebook, or you can check us out at thespiritualhandyman.com. Please get involved in the community and spread the word. Today we are talking about sound healing, and we will be speaking with Mandara Cromwell, who is a female entrepreneur, inventor, and she's got some pretty interesting things to share with us about sound healing and how she got into that. So please welcome Mandara to the show. We are so glad to have you. Please tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you got into sound healing.
Thank you, Jason, for inviting me on the show. And by the way, I just wanted to let you know that I love the name of your show, The Spiritual Handyman. All of us need to know that our toolbox is with us every day. And whether we're in the construction or creation mode or taking apart or tweaking something along the way, we all need tools. And so thanks for having the show, and thanks for inviting me on it. I started out in Kansas, and when people find out that I'm from Kansas, usually the first question they ask is, do you know Dorothy? And the answer is, yes, I know Dorothy and Toto. They were our neighbors right down the road. And I also knew her three guides, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. Of course, many of those were our first, for most of us, when we were in that generation, those were sort of our first guide teachers that we were introduced to at an early age. And so it was really kind of relating to this body, mind, spirit concept in the way of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and how she finds her way home. And so my book, which is recently released, the title is Soundflower, The Journey to Marry Science and Spirit, is my journey of how I became aware that sound was a common thread in my life, and it led me through serendipitous events and the meeting of people in the visible and invisible worlds of how I came about to learn about just sound in general and how profound it can be in our lives. So I started off in a Catholic church, Gothic style architecture, where the buttresses and the domes and the steeples were all harnessing sound, just kind of melded in with that big pipe organ and the Latin Mass and the Gregorian chant. And so for those of your listeners and viewers who have had that experience, they'll relate to probably that time period of where we were in this resonant cavity, and it really stirred something within us. And it wasn't, long after that, right after college, that I traveled to India, and I experienced another type of architecture. So these resonant architectures were my first teachers of the principles of resonance and entrainment, and how we can actually utilize sound to empower us. Today in medicine, we're hearing about the use of ultrasound, high frequency ultrasound for all different types of cancer and Alzheimer's and those types of things. What we are now becoming aware of is that from our ancient traditions, we knew that the power of the word, the spoken word, could alter us in body, mind, and spirit. And so it's very interesting today that we have this combination of science, the neuroscience is proving to us what we've known innately and in the spiritual text all along. One of the first things that I discovered, Jason, was the #1 tool to bring our whole lives back into balance. And that secret is meditation. Now, you've probably heard that before, and there are a lot of people that say, I don't have time to meditate. I don't know how to meditate. I don't want to meditate. Is there any other way? Well, let me tell you that that is the way that has been handed down through all of our spiritual traditions as the way to bring into balance and harmony. And through neuroscience, they're proving, you know, they hook the monks and all of the people who are meditators up to our modern day scientific diagnostic and evaluation devices, and we can see how powerful meditation is. Well, I will tell you that sound can be the fastest way into a state of meditation. And so I'm happy to talk about that as well.
Oh, thank you for all of that incredible information. I rewind a little bit to, I had never looked at the Wizard of Oz quite that way, but as you said that and it began to unfold, it made a lot of sense that is indicative of a spiritual journey in its own way. So that's now I want to watch it again with that in mind, just to see what else I attach to there. So thank you for that cool insight. And you're right. Meditation as a tool is something that I would say comes up in well over 2/3 of the episodes. And anyone who's a practitioner or expert or author, anyone that connects with the divine is always supporting any kind of practice of meditation. And specifically, I agree with you about the sound working really well. For me, that is something that I really do focus on, and I find that people respond well to it. In my shamanic work, I do a lot of journeying, always supported by a hand drum, and the resonance of that drum really does make a very quick adjustment for people. They have a tendency to get into that meditative state very easily and very quickly. So share with me what your views on why sound works and what you found is successful.
Well, from early on, I recognized that it was these different types of architecture, that this was a method that had been handed down for thousands of years to create spaces that harness the magic and mysticism of sound and vibration. So when you go into a Gothic style cathedral, if you happen to be there at a time where there's an organist practicing or actually a chorus there who's rehearsing or giving a live performance, you can feel it resonate throughout your whole body. And it's the same way in Indian culture. When you're in a temple, these particular mathematical proportions do harness the sound to alter the body, mind, and spirit. Because when we're in that particular state of being, that's when all of our bodies are in coherence, the body, mind, and spirit. Actually, in the Vedic tradition, they go into it a little bit more, and they talk about the 5 bodies and how we have our physical body and the other subtle bodies. For the sake of today's program, since we're a little trying to fit a lot in a short period of time, we will condense that into the 3 bodies of the body, mind, and spirit. And we all know that with our physical body, we can use sound. I use it all the time. Every time I want to clean out my garage, I put on music that puts a little pep in my step, right, to keep my motion going forward so that I can accomplish the task. So we can harness sound in that way. We can also use sound to calm us, and that's been talked about throughout history. In the Bible, we hear that Saul played the lyre, David played the lyre for Saul, and that this is really a very calming influence on our nervous system. And there's a lot of music therapists who have done studies, and this has been researched at all of our top universities, of how we can use more meditative type of music to calm our heartbeat and reduce our blood pressure, reduce our stress levels. And then, of course, using mantra or prayer to help us slide into those states of meditation. We also can use the visual of sound. And, you know, I want to make your audience aware that now we can actually see sound made visible. There was a time when we could not see into space. And with the invention of the telescope, wow, we can see galaxies and all kinds of wonderful things out there in the universe. And then with the microscope, we can peer into what's really happening at a cellular level. We've never been able to see sound made visible until recently. And there's a Swiss medical doctor, Dr. Hans Jenny, who developed the science and named it cymatics, which is the science of making sound visible. So now we can actually see the words that we speak take a physical form, and these are geometric forms. And so when we say something that's beautiful, like I love you, it creates these beautiful geometries. And so this is a little bit similar to my studies in India. And for people who want the bigger picture of this, I go into detail in my book. But, you know, the ancient spiritual adepts would use something called the Sri Yantra, which is a geometric form that they would gaze at. And by gazing at this particular geometric configuration, they would be able to access higher states of consciousness. And so it's a really easy way to fall into meditation just by visually gazing into this geometric form. And so with making sound visible, we can now distinguish which sounds are not so great for us and which sounds are really helping us. There was a French physician, his name was Dr. Alfred Tomatis, or in America, a lot of people call him Tomatis. And he said there are just two types of sound. Sounds that give us energy and sounds that deplete our energy. So just become aware. What are you feeling right now? Are the sounds in your environment giving you energy, or are they depleting your energy form? And that's a real simple technique that people can use every day.
That explains why construction and honking and traffic and those kind of things can be so disruptive, right? And why it's so nice in your office to have, you know, some proper music playing, or when you go to the spa, or why you've got high energy music when you go to that type of class or aerobic environment. It makes perfect sense around you, but then when you become aware, you really can identify for yourself what's doing what. So thank you for that insight. That is a very simple tool. The title of your book is, like you said, Soundflower, and I think you've kind of given us a little bit of background, but where did the name Soundflower come from? What's the significance of that?
Oh gosh, it's so powerful, Jason. So when I came back from India, I taught in a meditation center and led a meditation center. And it's really difficult back there in the late 70s when you're trying to teach Americans how to meditate by using a specific prayer or mantra. So when we say words that are a prayer, it changes our whole field, changes our whole demeanor. Well, there are certain Sanskrit prayers that you can say that will immediately create the field, create this coherence, and make it easy for you to focus and get into a state of meditation. And so I would say you don't really have to know the meaning of the words, but if you could just say them, they'll create this resonance within your torso cavity. And the vibration will penetrate throughout your whole immediate force field. In in 2001, I became aware of the work of Dr. Hans Jenny, who I just mentioned created the whole field of cymatics, the science of making sound visible. And he was the first one who used modern day technology to show how we can make sound visible. When I saw the metal filings take three-dimensional form, that was the key thing that I could use to share with others. This is the impact of sound and vibration. That sound does create form, and it is so powerful once people can see this. You might remember the work of Dr. Emoto, where he used his book was Messages from Water, and how you could see the vibratory effect of sound and vibration in frozen water. So this is a little bit like that in the sense that we can now see beautiful shapes that come when we're speaking nice words, or when the vibratory field is emitting something more coherent, a higher vibrational frequency. And so I fast forward, met a British osteopath. His name is Dr. Peter Guy Manners. And when I met him, he had worked with a collaborative group of scientists where they had figured out specific sound frequency programs that resonated with each part of our body. And I thought, oh, holy Toledo, this is great. There's actually like a master pitch pipe that people could tune into when their organs are needing a little help. And so I have a colleague and friend. He's a acoustics researcher in the UK. His name is John Reed, and he innovated something called the cymoscope, which helps to make sound visible. Well, when we would put these sounds from the device that I continued and then invented, the AMI 750, when we put these sounds into this little cuvette of crystal water, they would flower on the top and make these most exquisite geometries. And so therefore is the name Soundflower. So it's a healing sound, like a beautiful garden of flowers, and it's actually the geometric formation of something that has a healing impact on the physical form. And I've done research on that, so your listeners can read the book, go to my website, and see the science behind all of that. But just to let them know, it does have a profound impact on our human physiology. And this is such an emerging field. It won't be long before, well, as Edgar Cayce said, sound is the medicine of the future. Well, we're right here at the precipice.
Wow, that was, again, a lot of information, all explaining and relating other pieces and parts to the title Soundflower. So the question that's burning for me after listening to your share there is, does that mean within the book that we can look at the what's been produced and connect with those pictures and receive that same healing because those shapes were created by the sounds?
Jason, we are doing more and more research on that. I have preliminary research that shows it has a profound effect. So my book is chock full. As a matter of fact, those are all the images. Some people say, well, how come there aren't images of you in your laboratory? How come because I wanted the book to be chock full of something that could help other people. If they want to get into my life, that's great. I'd be happy to share that with you. You can read most of the story in the book, but really what I wanted is for people, number one, to read my story of my journey, because I think that they, just like we look at Dorothy and her 3 guides, people are going to be able to pick out where their nudges were all throughout their journey to say, oh, this was a hit for me. This is where my intuition was trying to give me this message. And once we tune into that, our whole universe shifts on an inner level. And then the second thing for the book, and equally as important for me, is that these sound images from a healing frequency code. Now, this particular code consists of 5 frequencies. So when you look at these pictures, which are in a scientific laboratory, everything calibrated, the temperature, everything is just at its perfection. So you get the clearest impact of these, what I call sound flowers, to help you with your body, mind, and spirit. This is exactly from the ancient tradition of where the spiritual adepts would gaze at that geometry to access higher states of consciousness. People are now able to look at these healing images and go, oh my goodness, I am feeling something shift. There's an inner recognition, people tell us, in our feedback forms when we've done pilot groups on this. And actually, for people who want more, I have a free gift on my website. If they want to go and get a free Simaglyph, they can't wait to get the book. They can get one of them and gaze into the heart of that sound flower. And then if they want even more, I have some 5-minute videos on my website that they can actually help themselves glide into a deeper state of meditation. You know, Jason, we're such a visual society. And so now that we can make sound visible, we can now understand it at a deeper level, and we can utilize it. We can harness this for our benefit. You mentioned just a little earlier the sounds of the construction zone and the honking, and what do you call the fire engines and the ambulances. Those are all they are stressors. But if we could utilize sound now to help us access higher states of consciousness and healing, oh boy, I'm so grateful to be a part of that.
It really does sound like everything. That was an indiscriminate pun there. Sorry. It seems like everything really is coming together. And like you shared with the Emoto, is it Ashimoto? I always want to call him Ashimoto. But the
Masaru Emoto, yes.
Yeah, his information and what he's shown, and I did see similarities with that with the Soundflower pieces, the videos that I watched from your website, and they're mesmerizing. Right? You immediately can feel that shift in your body and just be aware of that energy. You have a more direct way of doing that as well. Could you give us a short description of your invention? I think you called it the AMI 750. What is that? What does it do?
So that is the work from Dr. Peter Guy Manners. So he was a British osteopath, and he was a member of a collaborative group of scientists that they determine the different frequency patterns that bring our organ and tissues and cells back into what we call a resonant frequency. And what they found is that there are multiple frequencies that need to be played. We're all very similar. Each of our livers are basically the same tune, but we have some variations, right? And so we need a multiple chord of frequencies to play. So I took that information and wanted to really get it out to as many people as possible. So I invented a device called the AMI 750. So my background comes from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. And in those medical systems, they talk about, particularly in Chinese medicine, the meridian pathways, that we have these rivers of life. And some people in America recognize that maybe a little bit analogous to the circulatory system. So we need these rivers of life flowing all through. The body takes the sound up through the feet. So this is a device that you sit in a chair, you put your feet on it, it's very comfortable, and you just plug it in and turn it on for 30 minutes, and it helps to recalibrate different parts of the body. So this is what I call the master pitch pipe. Yes, you can meditate. Yes, you can gaze into the heart of a soundflower, but sometimes, Jason, we have gotten a little off track physically, and so we need some help. So what I call is, this is where we need to flip the switch and have a real entrained environment where we immerse our bodies into to help us come back into tune. So that's the AMI 750. So I look forward to everyone experiencing it.
With your passion, I'd imagine you'll get one everywhere. So every person should have one or access to one, right?
Absolutely.
So Mandara, how can people find you? How can they find your book? Where can they see a sampling and the videos? Tell us how to get to you.
There's a lot on my website at cymatechnologies.com, and that's spelled with a C, C-Y-M-A, Technologies, TECHNOLOGIES.com. And we also have a Facebook page of Cyma Technologies. They can post things there, access us there as well, or just email us. Obviously, I'm very passionate about the world of sound. So I also founded an organization called the International Sound Therapy Association, where we teach people about how to use the voice and different singing bowls and things like that. There are so many aspects of sound that are important. I just invite people to come to my website and contact me. If you'd like the free gift of the Cyma glyph, if you go to cymatechnologies.com and click on the media page, and on the left side you'll see a little link that says free Cyma glyph. Download that. There are 4 little lines of how you can utilize it best for your own meditation. Send me your feedback, send me your questions. I'd be happy to help.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with all of our listeners and viewers, and thank you for taking the time to share the beauty of sound in your journey, and hopefully some folks have been inspired to reconsider or re-examine or become more aware of how sound is affecting them and the world around them. Thank you so much for your passion and bringing that forward today.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be on the show with you. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you for the recognition. I appreciate it. That's going to conclude our episode of the Spiritual Handyman, putting spiritual tools in the hands of people that need them. If you would like some of the links and information, you can check that out in the description. Keep in mind that you can like, share, subscribe, and comment on Spotify. You can do that through Instagram or through YouTube. Push all the buttons, do all the cool stuff, help us expand the community. That is what it's all about. We will see everybody and hear you and hear us in the next episode.
The Spiritual Handyman, bringing spiritual tools to the hands of the people who need them. Sponsored by the Eagle Heart Foundation. The Eagle Heart Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings charitable contributions and educational enhancements to the people. So how can you be a part of the Spiritual Handyman and the Eagle Heart Foundation? The Triple Win Situation. This book was written by Granddaughter Crow, and half of the proceeds go to the Eagle Heart Foundation, which in turn sponsors the Spiritual Handyman. How to get one? It's on Amazon and Kindle for only $9.99. So we are here to bring tools to you. Thank you so much, Spiritual Handyman. We believe in what you do.